I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Beth Cooper, and I am the Talent Acquisition Manager with Apex Companies, and I will be your host today. We're going to be talking about our Grow With Us career insights and tips from some of our own environmental professionals here at Apex Companies, hoping to answer some questions about careers and jobs at Apex as well as in the environmental industry. We are going to welcome questions throughout the presentation, so please go ahead and type in questions in the Q&A box, and we'll try to answer questions as we go through the presentation today. There will be time as well at the end if we don't get to all your questions as we're going through the presentation. I would like to go ahead. We're going to do an introduction of Apex Companies, explaining who we are, what we do, and what we have to offer. And then we're going to move into a panel discussion with our guest speakers today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce those that will be helping me. Our guest speakers today are Division Manager Callie Thompson, National Program Director Sanford Garrett, and Senior Engineer Carmen Owens. As we kick off our introduction to Apex Companies, I'm going to have Sanford help get us started.
Okay, well, welcome all, and thank you again for joining us. A little bit about Apex. Our mission is to help our clients achieve environmental health and safety excellence by thinking strategically, also executing safely and growing responsibly. We take pride in what we do. As an organization, our job is to help our clients and their stakeholders perform well, but also meet and comply with all of the regulatory regulations throughout the states and the country. Our values, we believe in leading with safety. We believe that we empower each of our employees to act in a safe manner, but also to hold all those that are reporting and working with them to operate in a safe manner, but also to do the things, do right, perform well, but also keep in mind that the health and safety of all of our employees and all the citizens and neighbors in the areas and facilities we work are just as important as our projects and our opportunities to provide our services. Peace of mind, commitment, and our ability to be flexible. That's what we pride ourselves in, being able to help and to move and advance environmental health and safety issues forward. Next slide. Apex as a company has achieved a number of milestones. As we were founded in 1988, and throughout the periods through acquisition of smaller companies and organizations and mergers of different groups, we've grown from a budding company in 1988 to where we are now in 2020 of over 1,000 employees and over 50 offices nationwide, specializing in environmental health and safety consultation services, but also in providing support services and augmentation for different clients. Apex is a award-winning company. We've been listed in the top 30 and top 200 by ENR magazine as one of the top environmental firms in the nation. Also, we're ranked globally in our environmental ranking for Apex. So we have qualities that even the outside or some of our peer groups, as we're measured, we've achieved some level of success, but we're always striving to be better each and every year. ZY Group considers Apex one of the hot firms to look for and to be a part of.
With that, Sanford, I'm just going to make a quick note that under the employee achievements and under the Daily Journal of Commerce Women of Vision Award is our one and only Carmen Owens that received that award. So good job, Carmen.
Well done.
Okay. I'm Callie Thompson. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to take a minute to give you an overview of our services and capabilities. So we separate our services into these 4 primary groups. For compliance and assurance, that's a lot more of the regulatory driven work, permitting requirements, pre-construction or pre-modification, as well as planning and risk evaluation to ensure that your preventing environmental concerns where you're able to. So spill prevention, how you manage your hazardous chemicals, your petroleum products, and making sure that there are protections in place to avoid, in the event of an accident, to avoid that might reach a waterway, for example, or a public health concern. Health and safety. We have multiple groups in the health and safety program. We have an industrial hygiene team that's comprised of building materials scientists who do asbestos, lead, and mold investigations, as well as occupational exposure experts for air, noise, dust, and higher end, if you will, chemicals, primarily associated with larger facilities and manufacturing. Additionally, there is an environmental health and safety team. We do audits, fire assessments, and OSHA compliance or return to work support with COVID. And these teams all work together to help large commercial and manufacturing clients manage their safety concerns, as well as large offices and facilities that have a lot of employees to take care of. Environmental services, it's a big umbrella, and it includes what a lot of people consider more typical with soil and groundwater investigation and monitoring. We do small scale site investigation for real estate due diligence to evaluate environmental liability and risk. And we also do large scale site remediation, multi-year cleanups, Superfund support, state program support, and that might include injection wells, vapor intrusion, and more advanced remediation systems. Additionally, environmental includes natural resources with wetlands and waters, species, and cultural investigations, and we have an interdisciplinary team of biologists and engineers and geologists. Finally, water resources. We have a growing stormwater team. It's comprised of inspection compliance groups that do preliminary investigations related to permit requirements, as well as the repair construction group that comes in to fix those red flags that have been identified as part of those inspections. Also, we do have equipment operators and field technicians. And additionally, we also have wastewater and drinking water capabilities. Those are primarily support for some large national clients, but we also provide support for hurricane response and just general large scale water related issues. No job too small, but we'll adapt to all sizes. We have a nationwide team to support that. Here you can see our current office footprint. The advantage, and one thing I like about Apex, is while each office is small and gets the local company feel, our biggest offices are right around 50 people. Most of them are 30 or less. You get the full leverage of the company resources. So, you know, a quick call to the Rockies or to Oregon, and we found that right design capability to support a project in North Carolina. So we're able to leverage that. It does mean occasionally we take phone calls at weird times because of the time difference, but it's great that it lets us add that larger value for our clients locally, as well as supporting clients across larger footprints.
As you just were able to see, we have opportunities across the country. At Apex, we believe success begins with our people, and we have opportunities for most everyone, from construction and field technicians to project managers to leaders down to support staff. We have both degreed and non-degreed opportunities. Some of our technicians, as I mentioned, field technicians and construction technicians, are entry level and do not require an advanced degree. People with backgrounds such as landscaping, construction, outdoor general maintenance and repair work, and heavy equipment operations are great backgrounds and fits for our technician positions. We also have opportunities for professionals with degrees in engineering and science. We hire a variety from entry level to licensed professional engineers and professional geologists, and welcome backgrounds in biology, natural resources, geology, marine science, industrial hygiene, civil and environmental engineering, as well as chemical and mechanical engineering are potential fits for some of our roles. At Apex, your career can follow a line of technical growth and development, or there's opportunities to make that career path an upward path into project management and leadership. Of course, we couldn't do and be successful in all that we do without our support staff, our administrative assistants, accounting, HR, IT, sales, and marketing staff. So really a variety of opportunities for most everyone. This is a summary of some of the benefits that we offer at Apex companies. We have a variety of benefits that can be customized to fit almost each individual need. We offer a 401k plan with employer match. We offer 2 different health insurance plans to fit your personal health insurance needs. We have a PPO plan and a high deductible plan. With the high deductible plan, there is also a health savings account option that can be used in conjunction with your high deductible plan. We offer 2 different dental insurance plans, vision insurance, life and disability insurance. We welcome and encourage employee referrals. So if you have friends, family, colleagues that you think would be a great addition to the Apex team, send them over as a referral to the recruiting team, and if they're hired, you'll receive a bonus. We value continuing education. We encourage opportunities for people to attend seminars, conferences, obtain professional certifications and licenses, as well as some tuition reimbursement funds. We feel it's important to have a work-life balance, so there's paid time off and holidays. And we also have opportunities for overtime pay. Some of the additional benefits and discounts that we offer are things such as Costco memberships and discounts with Dell computers. So that tells you a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and what we offer. I'm going to take this opportunity now to move into our panel discussion and open up some discussion with our guest speakers. I want to remind you and welcome you to answer or ask any questions that you have as we go through. The first question that I'm going to ask is really geared for all of our guest speakers. Tell us how you got started with Apex. Where were you in your career, and what made it appealing to move to Apex to continue your career? Carmen, I think we'll start with you.
So I was actually one of the early acquisitions. In 2011, we were actually Ash Creek Associates, a small local firm in Portland. I had just started working. I had only been working for about a year. We got acquired, and everyone in the office was pretty nervous. A lot of people had been through acquisitions in other companies, and it hadn't always gone well. But Apex's attitude was they bought us because we were successful, and so they let us kind of continue operating as we were. And not only did that keep things going, we expanded and grew. We were primarily groundwater and soil remediation firm, and now we offer everything, locally here in Portland. An example, I have a biology background, but I wasn't really able to use that when we were just Ash Creek. But now that we're nationwide Apex, I've gotten trained in wetland delineation and been able to break into natural resources. And now our office can offer that service. Even though we don't have any experts here locally in Portland, I just have to call Callie and say, who do I talk to get help for this project? And we're able to do that. And so, I didn't actually choose to come here to Apex, but I have stayed. It's been 10 years. And we have had almost no turnover in our office. Everyone has really enjoyed the transition to Apex.
Excellent. Sanford, you want to answer the same question?
Sure. Well, my name's Sanford Garrett, and I've been in the business for over 30 years. I spent the first 28 years at Bureau Veritas. and working in the environmental health and safety in different capacities, from operations to business development lead for the East Coast in the Northeast region. So my coming to Apex was kind of like coming home. I started out in a smaller firm, and then we were acquired by Bureau Veritas. We went from 1,000 employees to 80,000 employees worldwide. And so operating on the global scale was great. But when I started looking for something different, I found Apex. And then I started to see the things that I really loved about the early start in my career was having a smaller firm that was well established, that had a lot of flexibility in being able to, on the projects I worked on or the clients that we reacted with, but also having a team that it's hard to get close to 80,000 employees, but it's a lot easier when you have 1,000 employees that you can call up and have a relationship with business-wise, and also just have time where you can share it and have comments to where you can just talk about other things in life as well, where you have a lot of things in common. So that change for me was great because it's familiar, but it's also very productive because it's not as large an organization to manage and to work in.
Great, thank you. Callie, how about you?
Sure. So I've been at Apex for almost 5 years. I historically worked at really small companies. Early in my career, I preferred that because it allowed me to do a lot of different things without having to specifically specialize. So I picked up a lot of maybe random skills sometimes along the way. And I had the opportunity to come to Apex. I wasn't officially looking, but I met someone at a local marketing event, and we started talking about a potential fit. And I was hired to be a project manager and help build the natural resource services. I'm a wetland scientist by training, and that's where most of my expertise lies, in the environmental realm. And then as I've sort of moved through my career at Apex, opportunities have changed. Had the pleasure of getting to know and connecting with the national team. I've worked with Carmen closely, despite the fact that we're on opposite coasts, as well as Sanford and I've worked closely together. We're both in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, and I have moved into an operational role as well. So I manage the operations for the Tri-State Metro Group, which is New York, New Jersey, and Eastern Pennsylvania. For me, transitionally, that's a good fit. In my mid-30s, my priorities are a little different than they were in my 20s. I used to like to travel all the time. Now I still travel sometimes, but it's not pure field work because I have a family and I like to be home a little more. So that's my personal priority change, and I've been really pleased that Apex offers the flexibility. 5 years in one place is maybe less common than it used to be, but I've been very happy here and I have never been bored. So it's engaging.
Callie, I want to dig into that a little bit more as you highlighted both your personal and professional roles have evolved and changed while you've been employed at Apex companies. Tell me a little bit more about how those personal and professional priorities align.
Sure. When I came to Apex, I lived by myself. I had a cat. I had a boyfriend, but he's now my husband, and we have a toddler, and we bought a house. It feels very adult when you talk about it. But it's, I'm more invested in my home life than maybe I was when I was single, and I enjoyed my independence and the ability to travel. I also professionally am at a point where I don't need to do all of field work myself. I've enjoyed the ability to train other staff earlier in their career. That still gets me out sometimes, which is nice. I still enjoy getting my hands dirty, so to speak. And it's the balance of both. But I find at this point, I also really find the people management rewarding, to support our team to be successful. regardless of where they are in their career. We have, people that have been in the business 30 plus years. They are the technical expert, as well as people right out of school and just starting out, and they don't know what they like necessarily. So I enjoy supporting that aspect as well. And while I do less technical work, I've learned a lot about our other capabilities. And I support the technical program from a growth perspective.
Great, thanks. Carmen, you are extremely active in your professional community and have also helped lead some initiatives with Apex, such as helping the Portland office go green. What inspires you, and what support or flexibility has Apex provided to you to help you with these commitments?
Well, I think, a lot of people that end up in environmental consulting, we did come from a place of, wanting to help the environment, whether or not that's what you end up doing in your career. A lot of us started out there, and I found that a bunch of other people in the Portland office felt the same. And at the same time, that ended up being something that was desired on proposals. They want to see what you're doing in your office to help be green. Our industry, we are environmental consulting. We do cleanups, but that's not the same as being sustainable. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to say we did both. And so that's really what kind of sparked that for our office. And I was pretty excited to be able to help with that. That's something I take very seriously in my personal life too. And I was able to bring that into work. Yeah, so that's really what started that. And it was really great that Apex as a company was open to taking that on. We wrote a pretty long sustainability plan for our Portland office, and corporate took that and they used that as an outline to start a corporate sustainability program, and now that's spread to a lot of other offices. And I found that to be the case in other things. That happened with the safety program here at Apex. When we first got acquired, Apex already had a safety program, obviously, but they looked to ours and said, you have a lot of good things here. We're willing to take those on. We're not going to make you just take ours on. So I found that really great here at Apex. I can go up and ask, and they're willing to listen. It's not just top down to me.
Excellent.
So yeah, I'm also supported a lot to work out in the community, like you were implying before. I'm involved in a lot of professional groups, and I'm encouraged to do that, and I'm allowed to do that during work time if that doesn't get in the way of my other commitments. And that's something I really appreciate about Apex.
Great, excellent. Sanford, over the course of your career, I'm sure there has definitely been some ups and downs. Tell us about a particular memory or experience that you've had that you found to be particularly rewarding.
Well, I've had a number of them over my career, over 30 years in the business. I started out as a marine scientist and began to work in the environmental field as an environmental scientist and consultant. I've had opportunities to work as an auditor, remediation expert, health and safety, and then moving into the business development, sales and marketing part of the business, but also keeping my hands in operations. What's been rewarding for me is actually going out and being able to bid on, win successfully large remediation projects that were multifaceted, that may have involved compliance, sustainability, groundwater and soil cleanup, and seeing that pull together and developing a team to help execute the entire program from beginning to end. And it's not always about the large size projects, but it's the ability to help restore the environment. One of my best projects, or one I enjoyed the most, was a fire that happened along the Savannah River, where we had a number of wildlife issues and damage by the contamination, and we were able to, within a year and a half, to restore that area back to creating being a natural reserve and park. It was no longer a chemical plant, but now it's an actual park and nature sanctuary. Our impacts included alligators and all sorts of aquatic areas around the facility. But in the end, now that is a beautiful park down on the coast of Savannah that's now a national park. So we can see from construction, from damage to restoration, that's probably one of the most satisfying, to be able to look back over your career and say, you know what, we helped and rescued this part of the environment that had been impacted significantly. So that's a success story that I love to tell.
That's a great one. Thank you. Callie and Carmen, this is to both of you. You both have had roles that have evolved, and in general, tell us a little bit about the company dynamics. Is your work at Apex generally collaborative, or do most people work individually? Tell us a little bit about how that dynamic is for you.
I can start with that. You know, we always talk about in our office how we call it a flat hierarchy here at Apex. Like I technically have an assigned supervisor, but it's not the only person I work with. Everybody goes to everybody to work together. I can go to the principal engineer and say, hey, I have this project, will you work with me on it? And I be the lead. It's really collaborative within our office and across the country. I've worked with people from Denver and Atlanta and the East Coast, Texas, pretty much everywhere in the country all the time. And it is really easy to find out who to call, like Sanford was talking about. 1,000 people, it's more than you can know, but it's easy enough. I can call Callie or Sanford and say, hey, do you guys know somebody who might be a remediation expert on vapor intrusion systems? And they'd say, yeah, I know this person here. And it's very easy to get to the people you know. And everybody that I've talked to has been really willing to work with other offices. There's not any inter-office competition. So I've had a lot of really great success with that at Apex.
Great.
Yeah, I would really agree that it doesn't really matter what level you are. People are willing to answer questions, be a sounding board. I like to think none of us know everything. So I certainly know that we've all benefited from some technology skills or new tools that are available that maybe we weren't aware of coming through school, as well as, you know, just different project experience. The state regulations vary a lot. So, you know, Carmen knows way more about Oregon than I do. I was super pleased with how great their online resources are. But it's a phone call or a quick email to find who those experts are for the local market. I technically work more often probably with Texas and the Rockies and Virginia than I do with a local group in the Pennsylvania market because of where people sit. But we pull from local scientists across the country based on field work. Same thing goes, part of my role is to help make those connections. So when people need, you know, a weird fate in transport for a special chemical, we had an emergency response in Texas and North Carolina earlier this year. My local geologist is that expert on environmental forensics for exceptionally difficult contaminants. And so we looped him in to provide the behind the scenes support on how to handle those chemicals, what the best methods were going to be to get the immediate cleanup as well as the long-term solution. So I've been really pleased and impressed. I think the people make a large part of the experience for me.
Great. Thanks, Callie. Callie, I'm going to go back to you with what do you find to be one of the most challenging aspects of working in this industry?
I think one of the hardest things is it is such an interdisciplinary field that no matter how much you learn, you will never be an expert on all of it. So, and I say that's, you know, one of the most challenging things because we have a lot of things that do pop up, and it's part of why we do rely on each other and pull from our full capabilities. I think the other challenging thing is it's consulting, so it's fast paced and it's demanding, and making sure that we take the time to balance personal and professional. We've worked really hard within the teams to make sure people are comfortable asking for help if they need it because of deadlines and personal commitments, as well as just making sure we're taking care of each other. So the time management can be a challenge, but that's a communication thing within the team, and you know, there's always more to learn.
Thank you. I'm actually going to go. We do have a couple of questions from our attendees. So thank you, Leah, for asking a question. And I will actually open this up for any of our guest speakers that would like to answer that. But the question is, do you have any exciting projects that you are working on right now or have worked on recently?
Ooh, I can start with that. I always have. I love all my projects. One specifically I'm working on right now. We are a contractor for the state of Oregon. We work for the Oregon DEQ. And they have asked us to support them in a cleanup next to a Superfund site from a former manufactured gas plant. And there's an estimated like 2 million gallons of manufactured gas waste underground right next to the river. And it is really fascinating to get to do it from this perspective. We're helping the regulator. And I've never worked on a manufactured gas site so big before. So that part is really exciting too. Just the scale of this project is huge. But getting to do it from the side of the regulator. I've worked on like sites right next to it as the consultant, and now I get to support as the regulator, and it's really interesting to see both sides. And so this has been one of my favorite projects I'm working on right now. I love that we get to do both sides.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks, Carmen. Callie or Sanford, any projects that right now that have been particularly exciting for you?
Well, for me, I've transitioned primarily out of the operations side of the business at Apex, and I'm currently working in the business development and national program side. And my job function is really to try to grow our business and grow the different services we may provide. So right now I'm working on a few projects that will help grow our abilities to help provide support for our clients remotely, for wildfire exposures, dust and smoke inhalation, and do some predictive analysis and review to try to help them understand where some of the risks are when it comes to air modeling and the movement of smoke and smoke dust and those small particulates that will impact your facility, your employees. So we're working on that. I'm excited about that and the potential. I'm working with our internal IT folks that actually write the computer code that allows us to do dashboards and database. So we have a team within Apex that also performs GIS, but they also write the software programs for us to help us to consolidate our data, graph it and present it to our clients and understand what's going on real time and start to do what we love. True consultancy is where we can do some predictive analysis to put solutions in place before it becomes a problem. So I'm excited about that because I'm working with the IT team, I'm working with marketing, and I'm working with the industrial hygienists and the scientists. So it's a group that we have together. We're trying to pull in this service line and develop a new opportunity for us to help support our clients.
Great. Excellent. I'm going to move on. We've got another question here from Celeste. What advice do you have for young professionals in this field, just getting started?
I can take that one. I would just encourage you to try things, to go in with a positive attitude and be willing to learn. My first job out of school was geophysics, unexploded ordnance detection. I knew nothing about it, but I learned a lot, and it was good exposure on field work and environmental consulting, as well as working with multiple contractors. Take advantage of training opportunities, whether it's webinars or, in-house training and safety clearances, as well as, attending some events. There's a lot of organizations that offer student discount or entry-level discounts, or even let you attend with someone. I think trying multiple things helps you dial in what you like, and also recognize that it's okay to change your mind. You don't have to know exactly what you want in school, right out of school, 10 years into your career, 20 years into your career, you can change. And, as Carmen mentioned, maybe you started in one place. Actually, Sanford, I forgot you had a marine degree. We all start somewhere, and that path is rarely straight. It meanders and detours periodically, but I think if you're reevaluating, you can redirect your path as you go. and that it doesn't have to be a hard plan.
Yeah, I would add to that same thing. Just reiterate, take advantage of learning everything you can. The number of trainings and certificates that I have is more than I can count. And sometimes an opportunity for training will present itself, and I didn't have a reason to take that or couldn't see where I would use that at the time. But in the future, it's become really useful. So, you know, especially when you're early in your career, a lot of times they'll throw you in trainings and things like that, and take full advantage of that. Learn everything you can, even if it doesn't seem related or something you're interested in at the time. Such as I went to asbestos inspector training. It isn't the thing I was the most interested in, but it has been so helpful and collaborative from the environmental side to learn about asbestos and building materials. And I would have never chosen to take that training. Like, I would never found it with my interests, but I'm so glad I did. It's been so helpful. So take full advantage and learn everything you can, even if it's not something you can see as useful at the time.
One of the pluses about being at Apex is our dual career paths. You have a technical path where you can just pursue a technical opportunity, whether it be environmental, asbestos monitoring, and completely work in the science of the field. But then at some point in your career, as Callie mentioned, you may want to start taking on more project management and work on the business side of the operation, where you can grow on the business side. And that's where we have those two paths, where you can be a senior scientist, or you can move to PM or senior project manager or account manager on the business side. So when you look at your career, really all the things that you learn early on the science side, and never forgetting your science, because that's the basis of everything we do, is just the science. You make sound business decisions because you're now understanding the business part of consulting, but you also understand the science basis for which your business decisions are made, or what clients make their business decisions. And so all of it really works together. I consider it lifelong learning when you're in the environmental health and safety field. There's always something to learn. There's always new, and because chemistry is ever evolving, there are new molecules every year. So we're always looking at what those impacts are to the environment, how does this impact the health and safety of the people that use those components. And there's always a progression moving forward. And as science gets better, early in my career, we were laughing because everything was in parts per million. Then they started talking parts per billion. Now we're analyzing in the parts per trillion realm and being able to identify which chemicals impact our bodies and environment down to the part per trillion. And to give it a reference, it's like taking one drop and dropping it into 35 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So when we look at where science is moving, this is the great time to be in the environmental health and safety business. And I think this is a great time to be in with Apex as well, because we're always front facing and looking forward to the future and how we can help health, safety, and environment.
Great, excellent. Another question that I think is a great question from our attendees: what attributes does somebody need to have in order to be really successful at Apex companies?
I would say in the number of positions I've had in interviewing, I've always looked for those that had kind of that twinkle in their eye, like they really want to take on everything you can put in front of them. No challenge was too big, even though they may not understand how to do it, but we're willing to ask the question, how do I do this? Or what's the best approach? And even those that have that kind of hunger, when they make mistakes, learning from the mistakes, or watching others and learning from the mistakes of others, having good mentors. So someone that's willing to learn is a voracious feeder when it comes to feeding and learning about different parts of the business. Every person you team with, there's always an opportunity to learn something from them as well, whether it's technical, whether it's how to manage account, or even how to manage situations where things don't go well. Everything is always not sunshine and roses on every project, and sometimes you just have to dig your hands in and fix it piece by piece. But working with good project managers, you learn that, okay, it's not the end of the world, but we'll take it one step at a time to make it better, to improve it, but also to figure out how we can prevent it from happening the next time. So I'm looking for those that are just hungry to learn, hungry to get their hands involved, and to roll up their sleeves and really work.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you know, people that want more, right? That if you're going to come in and be happy with the position you start, that's great. We certainly need everyone, but I think we all watch for the people that want to move up, that want to take on more, they want to continue to grow. Because those are the people that are helping us grow as a company and as a team. You know, they ask hard questions that sometimes challenge our knowledge and make sure that we do know what we're talking about, as well as, you know, preparing the next generation, right? Because if we're going to be successful, it's not just the team that we have now, it's building that out and looking forward for who's going to be our team of project managers and business development in 10 years and 15 years, and making sure that we're pointing people in those directions to be successful. And if they change paths, great. As an example, last year I learned that one of my stormwater technicians is finishing a degree in GIS, and we just officially switched him to a general scientist and GIS technician that, you know, he served his time and was working through school and working towards his goals. And we found out about them and asked if that was something he wanted professionally to do. And we were able to make that switch. So.
Great. Excellent. For somebody starting out, maybe just graduating with their bachelor's degree, where's a good place for them to start? What kind of positions would you recommend that they keep their eye on?
If their career is environmentally, their education is the environmental and not necessarily industrial hygiene, I would say look for those entry-level positions that will give them an opportunity. I grew up in the environmental due diligence field, where we do environmental assessments, looking at properties for environmental impacts as part of a transactional acquisition. For me, I think starting in that area helps you stay in tune with being able how to look at properties objectively, and almost like a detective, try to figure out where the environmental impacts are and what will be the probable impact if, say, you bought the property. What will be the things that you would have to do to make the property usable, or whether you can transform it into a residential property or commercial. I typically see most starting in that area and working their way out to doing other things, wetlands assessment, maybe some of the asbestos, indoor air quality, and getting a full rounding in their career early on, that when they start to move into other areas like remediation, you will have that skill set that you can go in and walk into a property and be able to evaluate where the environmental risks are. What's the next step for investigating the site? What are the probabilities of there being exposure? And then how do we clean it up? And it can work on the opposite way with health and safety. What are the impacts to my neighbors? What are the impacts to the employees of the people on the property? If I decide tomorrow, if my client decides tomorrow to put a daycare center here on this property, is there a risk to the smaller kids in the daycare? What are the safety concerns we have to worry about, and to what level do we have to clean up the properties? So there's, I think, from the assessment part of the business, starting in at that point, you can grow to different areas. And from the technical side, from the technician side, there are a broad range of areas you can start with, actually doing the field work, to being a project manager with 4 or 5 technicians working under you. So it really starts at learning how to perform assessments at the basic level, and then growing from there.
I think too, one thing that I found frustrating and challenging getting into the environmental field is it is so diverse. So it's hard to figure out what people call things, different positions. So even internally, you know, we have scientists, we have technicians, we have engineers. So cast a wide net. It is going to be a little extra work on your part, but you might be pleasantly surprised at finding a better fit or more options than you thought were out there. You know, it could be anywhere for an environmental science entry level. It might be called a geologist. You know, it might be called a scientist or a biologist, or just an environmental something, because it is such a big field. And also, don't be afraid to just reach out and ask questions. If it's not clear in the job description, contact them and ask, before you spend the time to fill out an application. Make sure it's something you're interested in.
Excellent. Another question on what does a typical day look like for a construction engineer at Apex companies?
I can take that unless Carmen or Sanford want to.
Go ahead, Kelly.
So I'm not sure any day is typical, but we'll say on a typical day, the construction crews like to start early. Some of that is just the general industry, as well as they do tend to work long days. It's not uncommon for field days to be 10 or 12 hours. That's in general, not necessarily specific to construction. But they have multiple crews. We have operators that run the equipment, as well as technicians supporting. There's usually a point person on the project, as well as someone on the logistics side in the program to help with resources, to check in and see how the job is going. What if it's going slower and we're going to need extra time to provide that communication support for the client, or if you're going to end up with way more or way less soil than planned, what that means. And so our construction crews are really strong technically. They know their work, they know their equipment, and they know what it should look like when it's done. So they work very closely with the client managers to provide that feedback. And we do incorporate technology advantages where we can. We have mobile phone app forms for pictures and just that completion form, so that we can very quickly relay that before they even leave the site in case something needs to be adjusted, to make sure that the clients are happy.
Can I add on to that, Callie?
Of course.
Callie and I both have managed construction groups for the stormwater part of our business within Apex. And we always remember that the construction day typically starts the day before, making sure you have the equipment scheduled for the job site, making sure that everybody's hydrated and you have the right clothing before you go out in the field. And so when they leave in the morning, Apex requires all of them to do a safety check. And in this environment, we have to do a COVID check for all the employees that are working on a construction project or on a site. Once they finish that self-assessment, they also check their vehicles. They arrive on site. They have a safety tailgate meeting before they start, and then they begin to engage with the client and performing construction work, whether it's digging a storm drainage swell, or if it's cleaning out a storm basin, or digging up the entire above ground storage tank area, underground storage tank area, or setting new concrete forms for the pouring and drainage in a parking lot. So their days, depending on the task, will always involve their equipment list, making sure they have the right equipment on site, their utility markouts, as they work, taking proper rest breaks, depending on the weather. And then at the end of the day, buttoning up the site, and then either if they're staying overnight in their hotel or they're traveling back. But there is a standard typical construction day within Apex. However, what we do ask for and require is full safety review and assessment on the properties on every project to make sure everybody gets home safely without injury.
Yeah, I would add that there are long days for construction sites, but those are some of my favorite projects when I'm out on the construction site. You work hard and you work together. You go to lunch together. You probably go to dinner together afterwards too, and it can be a really fun experience. They can be long days, but you're not working hard the whole day. You have to do safety stuff and there's breaks, but those are some of my favorite projects, is working out on the construction site with the team.
Yeah. And it builds that relationship you have with your colleagues. There's a lot of time to talk and learn about each other, learn about families, and just really enjoy, the time you have together while you're out in the field.
And food always tastes better at the end of a long day.
Oh, good.
Always good for a long day.
Oh, good. I know we're getting down to our final 10 minutes and we have some more questions, so I'm going to keep going as long as we have time here. Give us some advice for somebody that's maybe looking to transition into the environmental consulting from another industry. What advice would you have for those individuals?
I would say, similar to what we said about entry-level people, don't be afraid to apply for a position you don't meet 100% of the qualifications for. We have such a variety of backgrounds that work in my office, and we all do similar work. I have an engineering degree, we have soil scientists, we have an urban planner, we have geologists, we have all kinds of things, and people switch over from other fields all the time. Don't be afraid to apply for something that you're not qualified for. There's no degree in due diligence, I mean, well, I didn't even know what that was when I started out. That's a generic word. What does that mean? So don't be afraid to apply for something. If you don't know what it is, call and ask, and you can tailor your resume to show those skills. Due diligence, you need to be detail oriented. There's lots of other skills you can transfer over from other fields that will be useful. So don't be afraid to apply for something that you may not think you're 100% qualified for.
And within Apex, we have a number of PhDs. They're not sitting around performing research. We have Dr. Smythe down in the Tampa area, who's also a professor, but he specializes in indoor air quality and industrial hygiene, and he provides a number of services for clients in the industrial hygiene area. You have Dr. Derek Wong, has a PhD in hydrogeology up in Michigan, who does a lot of work with groundwater remediation, but has moved in his career to be specialized in air emissions and stack testing and programming. And a couple of years ago, he received an award from EPA for coming up with a new methodology to evaluate air emissions and testing for stack emissions from property. So we have PhDs, we have those MBAs, we have some that have insurance risk certificates, across the board, industrial hygienists, certified industrial hygienists, geologists, PEs, civil, mechanical engineers, chemical engineers. So there's just a broad group of professionals and scientists that when it gets down to it, they're all smart thinkers. They're all very good at what they do, and they're early adapters to new technology, but they're also always life learners. That's the plus. So don't worry about the transition. If you're you want to learn and continue to grow, I think Apex would be a great home.
I would also say, we have people that don't have college degrees, that they're field technicians, they know their business, they are experts in their field. We have people that are in school pursuing a degree, and some of them have the professional certification. So we're pretty open-minded about that. It's much more about the skill set and the person and how that fits within the team. And that hunger to keep learning along the way.
Maybe you guys hit on this a little bit as you were talking about that advice for new grads or people transitioning into the industry. But given that most of you have been in the industry for a little while, what would you tell your earlier self that was just starting out that you now know?
Wow.
Nobody wants to take that.
I think some advice I would give would be join professional groups and go to those things. And I know when I first started out and I would go to those meetings, everybody knew each other and they'd worked together for 20 years and I didn't know anybody, and I didn't get any business out of those things. And so, I wasn't sure what the value of that was, but you need to put in the time first and you get to know the people. And that's how you build those relationships. You go to those kind of professional events, you meet the other people out in the industry in your area. And so, and that's also allowed me opportunities to volunteer in the community. I work with kids, and I got that through going to professional networking events. And so that's my advice is go ahead and go to those things right away. You get so much out of it. And I feel like it can really give you a little bit of a boost once you've done that for a little while. If you go right when you're first starting, people will know you, and it can really help you in your future.
And they're happy to help make those connections as well. If you are out and engaging, some of them may not believe this now, but once upon a time, I was really fairly painfully shy, and going to big events was really hard for me. I still don't like large marketing events, but I set the challenge for myself to talk to, 5 people, get 5 people's cards, follow up with those 5 people, get a lunch or 2 out of it. And that makes it less overwhelming when it's a room of 200. And it lets you have that familiar face the next time.
Well, we're going to end with one final question here for all of you. As you look ahead, what are you most excited about with the future of Apex?
Well, I have the future of Apex, I think, is very bright, as we are always in the organic growth and acquisition mode to grow the business across the country. I can see Apex doubling in size in the next 3-4 years. I can see that we're pushing the envelope of expanding our service delivery. And what that means is there's more opportunities for everybody to either from the entry level to the senior and advanced level to take on more responsibilities and to grow with the company. I think we're positioned because of our size, because of our structure and the services that we provide. We're in that sweet spot of the business. We're not too big and we're not too small, but it gives us an opportunity to work at a level where we can work on the larger projects and we can work on the smaller projects, but also have the same efficiency and dedication to that work. So I think for anyone that's looking to join an up and coming firm or growing firm, a firm that has an opportunity to grow, not just technically and professionally, but watch the company grow as an organization, now is the best time. Even in this environment, we're always looking to take the next step with the organization. And I think that's the thing that excites me, because you can see that there's opportunities for those that are coming out of school and for those that may be transitioning from other companies that would like to be in a great environment. And I think that's where we are, that opportunity.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm just excited for what will I learn next. I'm never sure. We started out as a small company that just did soil and groundwater cleanup, and then I learned about industrial hygiene, about asbestos and lead removal, and then I was able to learn about natural resources, wetlands, and things like that. And now we're starting to do a little more of the stormwater that we talked about in our office. I'm getting to learn about stormwater services, but I'm excited to know what will be the next thing that I didn't even know I wanted to learn about.
Great. Excellent. Well, Callie, anything else to add? Are you good?
Just, echoing Sanford and Carmen that I think the opportunity is exciting and that there has not been, a ceiling or, we have different people that are specialists in different areas, but if we want to go after something, we kind of put our heads together and make the case for it. I'm not going to say we can all just cowboy around and do whatever we want, because we do have our own metrics and our expectations. But as long as we can make a good case that it's a good opportunity, maybe there's a little investment, but here's the potential reward, we'll get the support to go after that. And as Carmen mentioned, I'm daily surprised at what we can do. There's always, we're still getting to know some of the new additions from hires and acquisitions and what our full capabilities are. So making those connections and making sure that people are aware what we really have to offer, even if any one office may not be the expert, that we can do that together.
Great. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of our speakers today for your time and your insight into the environmental field and working at Apex companies. I know we didn't get to all of our questions, but I am going to share my information here with you. You can reach me directly at beth.cooper@apexcos.com. And please remember to go check out our opportunities. I know several of you had questions about where to start, what opportunities we have. You can learn more about our opportunities at www.work@apexcos.com. I would love to connect with each one of you after the webinar today. So thank you so much for your attendance.